I was 5 months pregnant, suffering from severe hemorrhage, and my husband was with me at the hospital trying to save our baby. The doctor had just asked my husband to pay the hospital deposit when his ex-wife's ringtone pierced the quiet of the room. Declan, Harper's chest hurts really bad. She won't stop crying and screaming for her daddy. Please, you need to come over right now. Without a single second of hesitation, he stood up. I grabbed his hand, my voice trembling. The doctor said the baby is in a very unstable condition. Please don't leave, okay? I need you. But he pried my fingers off his hand one by one. His tone carried a heavy edge of impatience. I'm not getting back with Chloe, if that's what you're worried about. It's just that Harper is still so young. She needs me. You have doctors and nurses all around you here. You'll be fine. With that, he walked out of the room without looking back once. At that exact moment, the cold truth finally hit me. Between me and his ex-wife and child, he had never chosen me, not even once. I decided right then that I was going to get a divorce. After he left, the hospital room became terrifyingly quiet. The nurse kept pushing. Where's your family member? We need the admission deposit paid before we can administer the medication. I opened my mouth, my throat feeling incredibly tight. He'll be back soon. The nurse sighed, placing the billing slip on the nightstand. Please hurry. We can't delay the medication forever. But deep down, I knew he wasn't coming back anytime soon. I called Declan. The first call went unanswered. The second call was declined. On the third attempt, he finally picked up. Through the receiver, I could hear a little girl crying, mixed with the sound of Declan's gentle, soothing voice. I forced back my tears and spoke. Declan, the hospital is asking for the deposit. There was a brief silence on the other end. I can't leave right now. Can you just pay it first? I'll transfer it to you later. I let out a bitter laugh. I don't have any money in my account. After we got married, he told me that men were better at managing finances and planning for the future. So my salary card, my bonus card, and even all the savings I had accumulated before our marriage were handed over to him, little by little. He told me that my only job was to enjoy life and let him worry about the bills. But every single time I needed to spend money, I had to beg him for it. When I wanted to buy a maternity dress, he would ask if it was absolutely necessary. When the OB/GYN added an extra ultrasound, he would frown and complain that the hospital was just trying to scam us. Eventually, even asking him for money felt like a humiliation. On the phone, his impatience boiled over. Are you seriously doing this right now? Can't you just borrow some from a friend? In the end, swallowed by shame, I had to call a friend to borrow the money to pay the hospital. He finally showed up the next evening. I sat on the hospital bed, gently stroking my swollen stomach. My body was still incredibly weak, and my voice was raspy. Declan, in all the years we've been married, I have never demanded anything from you. But this time, I want a divorce. He looked at me in utter disbelief and shook his head. No, I'm not divorcing you. I gave a faint laugh. I put your bank card back in your drawer. I know now that you never wanted to spend a single penny on me. Declan's face instantly turned incredibly pale. Not long after we married, we had a massive fight. Back then, when he broke up with Chloe, he had walked away with nothing. He had to pay a massive amount of child support every month. Even the expensive gifts I bought him were sold off, so he could give the cash to his ex-wife and daughter. He had pleaded with me back then, saying, Chloe is in the past. I only help her because of Harper. You are the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. From now on, all my money goes to you. He had handed me his salary card and started reporting his location to me every single day. Seeing his effort to change, I had let the past go. Until a few days ago when I tried to use his card to pay for some medicine and found out there was absolutely nothing left in it. I logged into his mobile banking app to check the transaction history. Every single dollar of his income had been transferred to Chloe. And in his cloud drive, there were albums filled with photos of the three of them, a happy family. During the times he claimed he was working late or going on business trips, he was actually with them. The way Declan looked at Chloe in those photos was still full of deep, lingering affection. I tried to tell myself he was only doing it for his daughter, but that excuse couldn't hold weight anymore. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, poured a cup of water and handed it to me. Amber, Declan truly loves you. You've been married for 3 years and you're 5 months pregnant now. What he does for Chloe and Harper is just out of responsibility. Just let him apologize and let's put this behind us. I kept my eyes down. I don't need his apology. Declan sighed, still trying to defend himself. Harper has asthma, Amber. You know that. Chloe can't handle emergency situations on her own. Your fever is down anyway, so stop making a scene over nothing. Eleanor smacked his shoulder hard. Apologize to your wife right now. You left your sick, pregnant wife at the hospital. How dare you raise your voice? Declan frowned deeply. Amber, I am your husband and the father of your baby, but Harper is also my child. If I can just abandon my own daughter, would you even respect me as a man? I clenched my fists, my voice barely a whisper. Then what about me? Was it fair when you abandoned me over and over again? Did you ever accompany me to a prenatal checkup? Did you ever give me money? Have you cared about me at all lately? He looked completely annoyed. Why do you have to keep score of everything? Right then, his phone rang. A little girl's voice came through the speaker. Daddy, I miss you. His expression instantly softened into pure warmth. I'm on my way, sweetie. As he hung up, Eleanor stood in front of the door, blocking his path. Declan, if you walk out that door to go to them today, I am disowning you. My heart, however, was already completely numb. During my first trimester, I had such severe morning sickness that I lost 20 pounds in a single month. He only offered a few cheap, verbal comforts and couldn't even bother to buy me some fresh fruit. I had kept working through the pain, eventually fainting at the office due to low blood sugar. And he had blamed me for it, asking why a woman had to be so ridiculously stubborn about her career. My first marriage had taught me a harsh lesson. A woman must never depend on a man for money. She must remain independent. My first husband had despised me for being a stay-at-home housewife, which was why I fought so hard to build my own career this time. I thought Declan would cherish my strength, but his actions proved that everything I did was just a joke to him. He walked into the guest bedroom and walked out with a stuffed animal and a brand new designer purse. He had never given me gifts or surprises. Even a gentle word, or his presence, was a luxury I had to beg for. Declan glanced at me. It's Chloe's birthday today. She's always been fragile. I'm just going to stay with them for a bit. I nodded. Go ahead. We had known each other for 5 years and been married for 3. He had never once remembered my birthday. Without a shred of hesitation, he pushed past Eleanor and opened the front door. Think about it rationally, Amber. I know you're not an unreasonable woman. Eleanor burst into tears, apologizing to me repeatedly. But this marriage had already drained every ounce of life out of me. I thought this second marriage would be my saving grace, but it turned out to be just another curse. After Eleanor cooked some food and left, I sat alone on the couch. I recalled how I had to drag myself through the past few days of threatened miscarriage all on my own. The day I started bleeding, I needed to go to the hospital. When Declan found out, he did rush to take me there. In that moment, I still held on to a tiny sliver of hope that he still cared about me. But then, he walked away without a backward glance. That very night, I saw a post on Chloe's Instagram. It was a photo of the 3 of them dining at a high-end steakhouse. Her caption read, "My ex-husband is always just one call away. He is and always will be our rock." He was legally my husband, yet I could never rely on him for anything. Once I had asked him to take me to a steakhouse. He had dismissed it, saying it was too expensive and we could make the same thing at home. I had thought he was just being financially responsible. But the truth was, he just didn't care about my happiness. Tears fell uncontrollably. He remembered the exact date he met Chloe, the exact spot of their first picture together. But when it came to me, his excuse was always, we're an old married couple now. Who keeps track of those details? He could fulfill every single one of Chloe's wishes. Yet when I asked for a simple box of chocolates, he would make a dozen excuses. While I was earning my own living, carrying our child, and doing all the housework, all he ever gave me was a lazy, "Thanks for your hard work." I thought he genuinely appreciated me. It turned out to be nothing but cheap lip service. They had divorced because of personality clashes and impulsive decisions. Once the dust settled, Declan started romanticizing their past, forever carrying a sense of guilt toward Chloe and Harper. The next day at noon, Declan suddenly showed up at my office to bring me lunch. I got this from that restaurant you like. Eat up. I noticed he had swapped his wedding ring back to the older design he used to wear with Chloe. Declan noticed my gaze, took the ring off, and carefully tucked it into his pocket. Harper was having a fit last night, so I was just trying to calm her down. Chloe also had a bit too much to drink. They really needed me. A wave of bitterness washed over me. Did I not need him? I had to handle every single crisis by myself. Was I not allowed to be tired? Last month, I was clipped by a car while crossing the street. I had to handle the police report and the hospital visit all on my own. When he saw my bruises, he asked a couple of careless questions, bought some cheap ointment, and that was it. My scrapes were itching terribly as they healed. I couldn't help but scratch them until they bled again, but he completely ignored it. Declan, if you can't let her go, why did you marry me? He went quiet for a few seconds. Chloe is just family to me now. But you're strong, Amber. You can handle tough things. They can't. My voice rose. Is that supposed to be an excuse? He glanced at my coworkers nearby and lowered his voice. Amber, do we really have to dissect this right here? This is a second marriage for both of us. We have to be more pragmatic. You're 5 months pregnant. Stop overthinking. I'll come home early tonight. I didn't touch the food he brought. I stood up and walked away. In love, it doesn't matter how outstanding or independent you are. If someone doesn't love you, they simply won't care. Because he didn't love me, he felt no pain for my suffering. This was a second marriage for both of us. We had met on a blind date. I thought he was a decent, down-to-earth guy with a gentle temper. He used to take me out for drives, talking about his realistic plans for the future. He seemed so reliable. I was the one who initiated our dates, and eventually, I was the one who proposed marriage. He had said, "Thank you for accepting me and my past." And I had replied, "As long as we build a good life together, that's all that matters." My ex-husband was as good as dead to me. But Declan's ex-wife was a constant, toxic presence in our lives. I was anxious all afternoon, and a sharp, cramping pain started spreading through my abdomen. I took emergency leave from work and drove myself to the hospital. After the examination, the doctor's face was grim. With the threatened miscarriage and your extreme emotional distress, the baby's heartbeat has become incredibly weak. Sitting alone in the sterile hallway, clutching my phone, my mind was a chaotic mess. That was when Chloe called. Amber, Declan won't be coming home tonight. I'm feeling really exhausted today, so he's staying to take care of me. Hearing her smug, provocative tone, I only had one thing to say. Do whatever you want. After being disappointed so many times, there was absolutely nothing left for me to hold on to. I scheduled the termination surgery for the next morning. Perhaps this was just my fate. This baby couldn't be saved anyway. By the time I got home from the hospital, it was late at night. There was a plastic bag sitting by the front door. I opened it and found Declan's dirty laundry inside. His underwear had obvious, suggestive stains. He had always been cold and distant when it came to intimacy with me. But clearly, he had plenty of passion left for Chloe. Right on cue, she sent me a photo. It was a picture of Declan gently massaging her legs. Even from his profile, you could see the immense patience and tenderness in his eyes. I bet you've never experienced this side of him, Amber. At first, these kinds of texts would make me scream and lose my mind, demanding answers from Declan. But he would always reply, "Why are you so incredibly petty? If we really wanted to get back together, do you honestly think you could stop us?" He was right. I couldn't stop them. So I chose to step aside. The next morning, before I was even fully awake, I heard noises coming from the living room. When I walked out, I saw Chloe standing in my kitchen, cooking breakfast, while my washing machine was already running. She glanced at me with a smirk. "Honestly, Amber, sleeping in until noon? No wonder you don't know how to take care of Declan." I let out a cold laugh. If you were so great at taking care of him, why did the two of you divorce in the first place? Her temper was notoriously worse than mine. Declan walked out of the bedroom, his face instantly darkening into a scowl. "Chloe came over specifically to help you out around the house. What's with the attitude, Amber?" Chloe crossed her arms, looking smug.
Exactly.
"At the end of the day, we're all family. Besides, this house of yours is in the top-tier school district, right? Declan said we should register Harper's school address here." I snapped. "This is my house. I bought it. I don't consent to this." Chloe's smile grew even wider. "Well, that's not really up to you, is it?" Declan avoided my gaze, keeping his head down, trying to dodge the conflict like he always did. He never actually solved any problems. He just assumed that if he ignored them long enough, they would disappear. "Amber, Harper is starting elementary school soon. Can you please just show some understanding for once?" I grabbed a glass mug from the counter and shattered it right at their feet. My voice went shrill. "I will not be understanding. Why should I sacrifice my life for the two of you? Chloe, are you incapable of surviving on your own? Declan, do you have any idea what happened to me yesterday?" Before I could finish, he pulled Chloe into his arms, shielding her protectively. "Have you lost your mind?" he roared. She clung to his chest, whimpering. "Amber, why are you so utterly heartless? When you married Declan, he made it very clear to you. Harper is his daughter. He has a duty to look after her." Declan looked at me, his eyes filled with pure, undisguised disgust. "I never realized you could be this toxic. Chloe is just brutally honest, but she's not wrong. She came here to do chores and try to keep the peace, and this is how you treat her?" She played her victim card perfectly, backing away slowly. It's fine, Declan. It's my fault. Harper, and I should just vanish from your life completely. Declan panicked instantly. No, Chloe, this has nothing to do with you. You are my ex-wife, and Harper is my daughter. It is my responsibility. Chloe fake wiped a tear and ran out the door. Declan bolted right after her, not wasting a single second. The apartment fell into a deafening silence. My next-door neighbor poked her head into the hallway, looking concerned. Oh my God, Amber, what happened? Did your husband just run off with another woman? I forced a smile. With his ex-wife. Realizing she had touched a painful nerve, the neighbor mumbled an apology and quickly shut her door. I went to the hospital at my scheduled time. But just as I was about to sign the consent form for the procedure, Eleanor suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Amber, what on earth are you doing? I gasped in shock. Mom, how did you know I was here? Eleanor's eyes were completely bloodshot. Every time I asked, you told me Declan was taking you to your prenatal checkups. But I found out today that he hasn't shown up to a single one. I saw you leaving the house this morning, so I followed you. Over the years, Eleanor had always been genuinely kind to me. Unable to keep up the facade anymore, I broke down and told her the entire truth. Eleanor's heart broke for me. She hugged me tight, gently rubbing my back. My poor child, you've been carrying all this pain alone. Just then, Chloe's voice echoed from down the hallway. I told you it was just a minor cold, Declan. There was absolutely no need to drag me to the hospital. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. I don't even know what to say to you anymore. Declan replied instantly. If something happens to you, what will Harper do? What will I do? Eleanor lost her mind. She marched right over and slapped Chloe across the face twice hard. You shameless gold digger. You claimed you divorced my son because of compatibility, but it was because of your reckless spending. You were texting other men online. You are divorced now. Why are you still leeching off my son like a parasite? Chloe snapped, instantly trying to claw back. You crazy old lady. I'm going to ruin you. Declan rushed to separate them, firmly shielding Chloe behind his back. Mom. What is wrong with you? Eleanor glared at him, hands on her hips. What is wrong with me? You are weak and spineless. Do you still not see what kind of person this woman is? Declan didn't want to yell at his mother, so he turned his icy, furious gaze onto me instead. The sheer hatred in his eyes felt like a physical blow. Did you stalk me? Did you bring my mother here to make a scene? You know Chloe is in fragile health, yet you still have to let your petty jealousy ruin everything? I said quietly, I didn't do anything. He stepped closer to me, his voice a violent, angry roar. You didn't do anything? Your heart is as small as a pinhead. Amber, using these disgusting, manipulative tricks, aren't you ashamed of yourself? Just to stop me from taking care of them, you're using my own mother as a weapon? Chloe gasped for air, playing up her distress. Whether legally or emotionally, Declan belonged to me first. Harper is so young and has asthma, and I'm constantly sick. Do you have any idea how hard it is for a single mother to raise a child? Hearing her words, the agonizing pity in Declan's eyes practically overflowed. Chloe, I am so sorry. I've failed you. I stood there, finding the entire display utterly hysterical. He made sure he was fair to everyone in the world, yet he never once stopped to think if he had been fair to me. Eleanor screamed at him, This has nothing to do with Amber. Do you even know why we are at the hospital today? But Declan was completely deaf to her words. He reached out and shoved me aside, his voice cold as ice. Are you happy now? In all the years we've been together, have I ever hit you? Have I ever abused you? Have I cheated, gambled, or left you homeless? You know how important they are to me, yet you still pull this pathetic stunt. You are genuinely disgusting and pathetic, Amber. If anything happens to Chloe today, I will hate you for the rest of my life. Listening to his venomous words, I finally realized that I had never truly known this man. He hated me. He wanted to hate me for the rest of his life. Without even giving me a single chance to explain, he chose to stand unconditionally with his ex. Suddenly, a sharp, stabbing pain shot through my lower abdomen. The world began to spin. I looked down and saw bright red blood rapidly staining its way down my pants. Eleanor screamed in horror, swinging her purse violently at Declan's chest. You bastard. Amber is here to get a termination because the baby is dying. Declan's face drained of color instantly. The scent of disinfectant was suffocating. As the bright red blood seeped through my clothes, staining the sterile white tiles of the hospital corridor, the noise around me began to fade into a dull, underwater hum. I felt myself sinking, the heavy pain in my abdomen giving way to an icy numbness that crept up from my limbs. Eleanor's screams sounded far away. Declan, look at what you've done. Look at your wife. Declan stood frozen. The irritation and disgust that had carved deep lines into his face just moments ago vanished, replaced by a blank, terrifying realization. His hand, which had been protectively wrapping around Chloe's shoulder, slowly slid down to his side. He took a hesitant step toward me, his lips trembling. Amber? I didn't answer him. I couldn't. The physical pain of the miscarriage was nothing compared to the sudden, hollow silence inside my body. The faint, fluttering heartbeat I had tried so desperately to protect was gone. I felt the exact moment my baby left me. The medical staff rushed out of the double doors, their voices urgent and sharp. Emergency. Patient is hemorrhaging. Get a gurney, now. Prepare the operating room. We need to perform an emergency curettage. Hands grabbed me, lifting my limp body onto the cold metal of the gurney. The ceiling lights flashed overhead in a dizzying blur. Through the chaos I saw Declan trying to run after me, his face pale, his voice cracked with a sudden, desperate panic. Amber, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Before he could reach the doors, Eleanor grabbed him by the collar of his shirt. With a strength born of pure rage, she dragged him back, her voice echoing through the sterile hallway. Don't you dare touch her. You killed her baby. You, and this miserable parasite, killed my grandchild. Chloe, standing a few feet away, was trembling, her hands clutching her throat. Her eyes darted around the hospital corridor, terrified of the scene, terrified of the public shame. Declan, I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't. No, she was really sick. But Declan wasn't looking at her anymore. He was staring at the closed doors of the operating room, his knees buckling until he sank slowly onto the cold floor, his head buried in his hands. Inside the operating room, the coldness was absolute. As the anesthetic began to take effect, a single tear slipped from the corner of my eye, disappearing into my hair. I looked up at the harsh, bright lights above. It's over, I thought. Everything is over. When I finally opened my eyes, the harsh sunlight of the next afternoon was streaming through the hospital window. The room was incredibly quiet. Amber? Oh, thank God you're awake. I turned my head slowly. Eleanor was sitting by my bedside, her eyes swollen and red, her face looking 10 years older than it had the day before. She immediately stood up, pouring a cup of warm water and holding it to my dry lips. Don't speak yet, dear. Drink some water. I took a few small sips. My throat felt like sandpaper and my body felt hollowed out, as if a vital part of my soul had been violently ripped away. I placed my hand on my stomach. It was flat. The baby was gone. The doctor said the surgery was successful. Eleanor whispered, her voice cracking as she wiped a fresh tear from her cheek. But your body is extremely weak. You need to rest, Amber. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry my son did this to you. Where is he? My voice was barely a breath. Eleanor's face hardened. I kicked him out. He's been standing outside the room since last night. He tried to come in several times, but I told him if he set foot in here, I would throw myself out of the window. He doesn't deserve to look at you. I closed my eyes, feeling a strange, profound sense of peace. The anger, the jealousy, the desperate longing for him to notice me, all of it had burned away. In that operating room, what was left was only a cold, hard determination. Mom, I said, my voice steady despite its raspy quality. Can you help me call my lawyer, Monica? Eleanor blinked in surprise, then a look of deep relief and respect crossed her face. She reached out and squeezed my hand. Of course. I'll call her right now. Amber, whatever you decide to do, I am on your side. Even if you divorce him, you will always be my daughter. 10 minutes later, the door to the room creaked open. It wasn't the lawyer. Declan slipped in, carrying a thermos. He looked disheveled. His chin was covered in dark stubble, his clothes were wrinkled, and his eyes were bloodshot. The moment he saw me sitting up, a glimmer of hope sparked in his eyes. Amber, he breathed, taking a cautious step forward. I brought you some chicken soup. I made it myself. The doctor said you need nutrients. Get out, I said calmly. Declan froze. His face fell, and he looked at me with an agonizing expression of guilt. Amber, please. Let me explain. I really didn't know the baby was in danger. If I had known, I would never have left. Chloe told me she was having a heart palpitation, and Harper was crying. I was just stressed. I wasn't thinking straight. Declan, do you think I care about your excuses anymore? I looked him directly in the eyes. For the first time in 3 years, my heart didn't flutter, nor did it ache. I looked at him the way I would look at a stranger on the street.
Our
Baby is dead. And so is our marriage.
No.
He rushed to the bedside, dropping the thermos onto the nightstand.
He
Tried to grab my hand, but I pulled it away, hiding it under the blanket.
We
Can try again, Amber. We're still young. The doctor said this was just an accident. Once your body heals, we can have another baby. I promise I will cut ties with Chloe. I'll only send child support through a lawyer. I won't see her again. You're lying, I said, a faint, bitter smile touching my lips. You've said those exact words to me before. When we first got married, you handed me your card and said Chloe was in the past. But you were secretly transferring every cent of your salary to her. You even took my savings and gave them to her. You took her and Harper to high-end steakhouses while you told me a $50 dinner was too expensive. Declan's face drained of color.
I was just trying to compensate them.
Because I felt guilty about the divorce. You compensated them by destroying me, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper that cut through the room like a knife. You used my love, my patience, and my money to build a happy little family with your ex-wife. Now get out. My lawyer will be here soon. Your lawyer? Declan's eyes widened in panic. Amber, you can't be serious. We've been married for 3 years. You proposed to me, remember? You said you wanted us to grow old together. I was blind then, I replied. But now I can see perfectly. At that moment, the door opened and Monica, my lawyer, walked in, followed by Eleanor. Monica was a sharp, no-nonsense woman in her late 30s, carrying a sleek leather briefcase. Declan, Eleanor said, her voice dripping with disgust. The police are downstairs. If you don't leave this room immediately, I will personally have them drag you out for harassing a patient. Declan looked at his mother, then at me, and finally at Monica. Sensing the absolute lack of warmth in the room, he slowly backed away, his hands trembling. Amber, this isn't over, he whispered desperately. I won't sign the papers. I love you. The door clicked shut behind him. Monica sat in the chair Declan had just vacated, pulling out a folder of
documents.
Amber, I received the financial records you sent me before your hospitalization. I've already done some preliminary digging. We have a very strong case. What are our options, Monica? I asked, leaning back against the pillows. Monica adjusted her glasses. In this jurisdiction, any transfer of joint marital assets to a third party without the other spouse's consent can be legally challenged. Declan has transferred a total of $180,000 to Chloe over the past 3 years. Because this money belongs to your marital estate, we can file a lawsuit against Chloe to demand the return of the entire sum. Eleanor nodded vigorously. Do it. Sue that shameless woman. Take back every single penny. What about the house? I asked. The apartment you currently live in was purchased solely under your name before the marriage, using your own savings and a down payment from your parents. Monica explained. Declan has no legal claim to it. Furthermore, because he fraudulently took your salary cards and savings accounts, which we can prove through bank transfer trails, we can petition the court to freeze his accounts and force him to reimburse you for every dollar of your personal premarital funds he misappropriated. I felt a cold sensation of relief wash over me. Prepare the lawsuit, Monica. I want Declan to receive the divorce papers, and I want Chloe to receive the court summons for the return of the $180,000. Send them both by tomorrow morning. 2 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. Eleanor refused to let me go back to my apartment alone, insisting on staying with me to take care of my recovery. We had barely walked through the front door when my phone began to ring incessantly. It was Declan. I ignored the calls, blocking his number. Within minutes, a string of frantic text messages came from an unknown number. Chloe. Amber. Are you insane? What is this court summons? Why am I being sued for? $180,000? That was Declan's money. He gave it to his daughter. You have no right to sue me. Answer your phone. You're trying to ruin my life. Harper is sick. She needs that money for her treatments. How can you be so heartless? I stared at the messages, a cold laugh escaping my throat. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the screenshots directly to Monica. An hour later, the doorbell rang violently. Eleanor went to open it, and immediately, The sound of raised voices echoed through the hallway.
Where is she?
Where is Amber? Declan's voice was strained, thick with panic and anger. He pushed past Eleanor, bursting into the living room. Behind him, Chloe was weeping, clutching a crumpled piece of paper, the court summons. Amber. Declan yelled, his eyes wide as he stared at me sitting on the couch. What is the meaning of this? You're suing Chloe? You're asking her to return $180,000? Do you want to drive her to suicide? She has plenty of energy for someone on the verge of suicide, I said calmly, sipping my tea. She was just texting me insults an hour ago. Chloe rushed forward, throwing herself onto her knees in front of my coffee table. Her tears looked dramatic, practiced. Amber, please. I beg you.
Declan
Gave me that money because we were struggling. I didn't know it belonged to you. If I have to pay this back, Harper and I will be homeless. Please have some mercy on a child. I looked down at her. You didn't care about my child when you called Declan away while I was hemorrhaging in the hospital. You didn't care about my child when you bragged on Instagram about how your ex-husband was always one call away while I was paying my own hospital deposit with borrowed money. Why should I care about yours? Chloe's crying stopped for a fraction of a second, her eyes flashing with a brief spark of venom before she went back to sobbing. Declan stepped between us, glaring at me. Amber, you've gone too far. This is between you and me. Why are you dragging Chloe into this? I told you I will reimburse you. Just give me time. Reimburse me with what? I asked, tilting my head. Your salary is gone. You've transferred everything to her. Your accounts are already frozen by the court as of this morning. You don't have a single penny to your name, Declan. Declan's breath hitched. He quickly pulled out his phone, his fingers trembling, as he logged into his banking app. A second later, the phone slipped from his hand, clattering onto the hardwood floor. You actually froze my accounts? He whispered, looking at me as if he were seeing a monster. How could you do this to me? I am your husband. Not for much longer, I said. Monica has already filed the divorce petition on the grounds of emotional abuse, financial fraud, and the breakdown of the marriage. The court date is set. I won't sign. Declan roared. I'll fight you in court. I'll tell the judge. You're doing this out of malice. Go ahead. I replied coolly. My lawyer has 3 years of bank statements showing you embezzled my personal funds. She has the medical records of my miscarriage showing that my physical and emotional distress was caused by your severe neglect. She has the text messages where you admitted to spending my money on your ex-wife. If we go to trial, not only will you lose every asset, but you will also face criminal charges for financial theft of premarital property. Declan's arguments crumbled. He looked at me, his chest heaving, his mouth opening and closing but finding no words. For the first time, he realized that the quiet, gentle woman who had proposed to him, who had tolerated his neglect for 3 years, was completely gone. Declan. Chloe whimpered, pulling on his trousers. Do something. My lawyer said if we lose, they can seize my assets. They'll take my apartment. They'll take my car. Your apartment? I smiled thinly. You mean the apartment Declan helped you buy? With my down payment savings? Yes, Chloe. They will take that first. T. Chloe suddenly screamed, abandoning her victim act entirely.
She
Stood up, her face distorted with rage, and lunged toward me.
You ruined my
family. You stole Declan from me, and now you want to take everything we have. Before she could reach me, Eleanor stepped forward, grabbing Chloe by her hair and dragging her back. Get out of my daughter's house. Eleanor roared, slapping Chloe across the face. So hard the sound echoed like a gunshot. You shameless, disgusting thief.
If
you don't get out right now, I will throw you down the stairs myself. Mom, Declan cried, trying to protect Chloe. Don't call me Mom, Eleanor yelled, pointing a trembling finger at the door.
I
do not have a son who is a thief and a murderer of his own child.
Get out, both
of you. Get out of this house. Terrified of Eleanor's fury and the absolute coldness in my eyes, Chloe grabbed her purse and ran out of the apartment, weeping hysterically. Declan hesitated, looking at me one last time, hoping to see a shred of regret or hesitation on my
face.
There was none. He turned and chased after Chloe, leaving behind a silence that felt lighter and cleaner than it had in years. The weeks leading up to the court hearing were a chaotic storm for Declan and Chloe, but for me, they were a period of quiet healing. With Eleanor's meticulous care, my body slowly recovered from the physical trauma of the miscarriage. I returned to work, pouring all my energy into my career. My colleagues noticed the change in me. The exhausted, anxious shadow of a woman had been replaced by a sharp, focused professional. Meanwhile, Declan's life was rapidly unraveling. Because his bank accounts were frozen, he couldn't pay his monthly credit card bills, nor could he provide Chloe with her usual allowance. One evening, Eleanor received a phone call from a tearful Declan, begging her for money. She had put him on speakerphone, so I could hear. "Mom, please just lend me $10,000, Declan sobbed. "Chloe's apartment mortgage is due, and her car payment is late. The bank is threatening to repossess her car. Harper is crying because we can't afford her private tutor anymore." Eleanor let out a cold, mocking laugh. $10,000? Declan, do you think my money grows on trees? Even if I had it, I would rather throw it in the river than give it to that leech. She's not a leech, Mom. She's the mother of my child. And what about Amber? Eleanor's voice went sharp as steel. She was the mother
Of your child, too.
but you let that baby die in her womb while you were busy buying designer bags for Chloe's birthday. Don't call me again, Declan.
Eva.
Already changed my will. Every asset I own will go to Amber. You won't receive a single penny from me, now or ever. With that, Eleanor slammed the phone down. Without the endless stream of money, the affectionate bond between Declan and Chloe began to fracture rapidly. A few days later, my colleague who lived in the same neighborhood as Chloe sent me a video. It was recorded in the parking lot of Chloe's apartment.
Complex.
In the video, Declan and Chloe were having a screaming match next to her car. "What do you mean you can't pay the mortgage this month?" Chloe shrieked, her voice shrill and ugly. "You promised me you would take care of us.
You said.
Amber's money was practically yours anyway." "I don't have any money, Chloe," Declan yelled back, his face red, looking exhausted and broken. "My accounts are frozen. My mother has disowned me.
I'm
Facing a lawsuit that could put me in jail. Can't you just sell some of those designer bags I bought you to help cover the mortgage?" "Sell my bags?" Chloe laughed hysterically. "Are you out of your mind? Those are my bags. Why should I suffer because you're incompetent? If you can't even handle a simple divorce without losing everything, what use are you to me?" "Chloe, how can you say that?" Declan's voice sounded incredibly fragile, shattered by her words. "I sacrificed my marriage for you. I let my baby die for you. I did everything for you and Harper. Nobody asked you to let your baby die." Chloe snapped viciously. "You did that because you're weak. You couldn't handle Amber, and now you're blaming me? Let me tell you something, Declan, if you lose this lawsuit and they take my apartment, we are finished. I'm not staying with a broke, useless loser." She slammed her car door and drove away, leaving Declan standing alone in the dusty parking lot, looking like a discarded piece of trash. Watching the video, I felt no satisfaction, only a profound sense of irony. This was the deep, lingering affection Declan had romanticized for years. He had destroyed his own family, killed his own child, and betrayed a woman who truly loved him, all to chase a fantasy of being a savior to an ex-wife who only valued him as a walking ATM. The day of the court hearing arrived. The courtroom was quiet, smelling of old paper and wood polish.
I sat at the
Plaintiff's table next to Monica, dressed in a sharp, tailored navy suit.
my
Hair was pulled back, and my face was calm. Declan sat at the defense table. He looked hollow. He had lost a significant amount of weight, his suit hanging loosely off his shoulders. He kept his eyes glued to the table, unable to look in my direction. Chloe sat in the public gallery, her face pale, no longer wearing her usual designer clothes or heavy makeup. She looked anxious, her fingers nervously ripping a tissue to shreds. The judge, a stern-faced woman with sharp eyes, reviewed the thick stack of financial evidence Monica had submitted. "The evidence presented by the plaintiff is comprehensive and irrefutable," the judge began, her voice echoing in the quiet room. "The defendant, Declan, has systematically transferred large sums of joint marital assets, totaling $180,000, to his ex-wife, Chloe, without the consent or knowledge of his spouse. Furthermore, the court finds clear evidence of financial deception, as the defendant actively concealed his income and misappropriated the plaintiff's personal premarital savings." Declan's lawyer tried to speak. "Your Honor, my client did this out of moral obligation to support his minor child. Moral obligation does not authorize financial fraud, the judge interrupted
Sharply.
The child support agreement from the defendant's previous divorce specifies a monthly payment of $800. The transfers made by the defendant far exceed this amount, often disguised as personal gifts, vacation expenses, and luxury purchases for the ex-wife. This is a clear misappropriation of joint marital property. The judge turned her gaze to Chloe. Consequently, the court rules in favor of the plaintiff. The recipient, Chloe, is ordered to return the full amount of $180,000 to the plaintiff within 30 days. If she fails to do so, her assets, including her real estate and personal vehicle, will be seized and liquidated to satisfy the judgment. Chloe let out a choked gasp, burying her face in her hands, sobbing loudly. Regarding the divorce, the judge continued, looking at Declan. Given the extreme emotional distress and financial abuse suffered by the plaintiff, which directly contributed to the tragic loss of her pregnancy, the court grants the divorce immediately. The marital home remains solely the property of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay all legal fees and reimburse the plaintiff for the $50,000 of her personal savings he misappropriated. Understood, Your Honor, Monica said, smiling faintly. As the judge banged her gavel, signaling the end of the session, the tension in the room snapped. Chloe stood up from the gallery, rushing toward Declan. But she didn't embrace him. Instead, she threw her purse at his head, screaming like a wild animal. You ruined me. You said she couldn't do anything to us. Now I have to sell my apartment. I have to sell everything. You useless, pathetic excuse for a man. Chloe, please. Declan tried to grab her arm, tears streaming down his face. We can get through this. We can rent a place. Rent a place? Chloe spat, pushing him away with absolute disgust.
With what? Money?
You don't even have a job anymore. Indeed, Declan's company had recently launched an internal investigation after Eleanor exposed his financial misconduct, resulting in his quiet termination to avoid a public relations scandal. Don't ever contact me again, Declan. You're cursed. Everyone who gets close to you ends up ruined. Chloe stormed out of the courtroom, her high heels clicking furiously against the marble floor, leaving Declan completely alone. Declan stood frozen in the middle of the courtroom. Slowly, he turned his head and looked at me. I was packing my documents into my briefcase. My movements were calm, precise, and entirely unbothered. He walked over to my table, his voice a trembling, broken whisper. Amber, are you happy now? I have nothing left. My mother hates me. My career is ruined. Chloe has left me, and I'm completely broke. Is this the revenge you wanted? I stopped packing. I looked up at him, my expression entirely neutral. Revenge? I asked quietly. Declan, you flatter yourself. I didn't do any of this to get revenge on you. Then why? He cried, his voice cracking. Why did you have to be so ruthless? I did this to protect myself, I said, my voice steady and cold. You thought my strength and independence meant I could tolerate your abuse forever. You thought because I loved you, I would let you walk all over me. But you forgot one thing. I stood up, picking up my briefcase, looking down at him with a gaze that held absolutely no emotion. A woman who is strong enough to build her own life is also strong enough to cut you out of it like a cancer. You didn't lose everything because of me, Declan. You lost everything because of your own greed, your cowardice, and your utter lack of a conscience. I took a step past him, then paused, looking back one last time. I hope you and Chloe enjoy the life you've built together. Oh, wait. I forgot. She doesn't want you anymore. With that, I walked out of the courtroom, my steps light and confident, leaving him standing in the shadows of his own ruin. 2 years later, the morning sun was warm and golden, casting long shadows across the polished concrete floor of my new design studio. After the divorce, I had sold my old apartment, the one filled with the suffocating memories of Declan's neglect, and used the recovered $230,000 to buy a beautiful, spacious loft in the city center. I had also quit my corporate job and started my own interior design firm. The business was thriving. My schedule was packed with clients, and for the first time in my life, I felt a deep, genuine sense of accomplishment. I was no longer living to please a man. I was living for myself. Amber, the coffee is ready, Eleanor said, walking into my office with 2 steaming mugs. Even though Declan and I were divorced, Eleanor had kept her word. She had completely severed ties with her son, refusing to answer his calls or let him into her home. Instead, she had become my closest companion, helping me manage the studio's administrative work and acting as a surrogate mother to me. "Thanks, Mom," I said, smiling as I took the mug. "The new client is arriving in 10 minutes, she noted, her face full of pride. "A major developer from the Northern District. This is a huge contract, Amber." "I'm ready," I replied, feeling a surge of quiet confidence. At that moment, the bell above the studio door chimed. I stood up, expecting the client. But when I walked into the reception area, the smile on my face slowly faded. Standing by the door was a man. He was wearing a faded, slightly dirty jacket, his hair messy and graying at the temples. He looked exhausted, his shoulders slumped, his face lined with deep, permanent wrinkles of stress and defeat. It was Declan. It had been 2 years since I last saw him. Without his high-paying job and his mother's financial backing, he had aged rapidly. He looked like a man in his late 50s, though he was barely 40. When he saw me, his eyes lit up with a desperate, painful longing.
He took a
step forward, his hands twitching at his sides. Amber. Eleanor, who had followed me out, immediately stepped in front of me, her face twisting into a scowl. "Declan? What are you doing here? I told you if you ever came near Amber again, I would call the police." "Mom, please. I'm not here to cause trouble," Declan pleaded, his voice thin and raspy. He looked at me, his eyes filling with tears. "Amber, I wanted to see you. I saw your interview in the design magazine. You look so beautiful. You look so happy." "I am happy, Declan," I said, my voice calm and devoid of any anger.
"And I
"Would appreciate it if you left. We have nothing to discuss." "Amber, please, just 5 minutes," he begged, taking a step closer though. Eleanor kept her ground, blocking him. "I just wanted to apologize. I know it's too late, but I need you to know. I was wrong. I was so wrong." He let out a dry, ragged sob. "Chloe, she took everything. When the court ordered her to pay the money, she sold the apartment and fled the city with Harper and some wealthy businessman she met online.
She didn't even tell me she
Was leaving. She blocked my number, and I haven't seen Harper in 2 years." I listened to him, but my heart remained completely still. The tragic story of his betrayal by the woman he had ruined his life for didn't evoke a single drop of pity in me. It was simply the natural consequence of his choices. "I'm working at a logistics warehouse now, Amber," he continued, his voice trembling as he wiped his nose with his sleeve. "I live in a tiny, damp basement. Every single night, when I close my eyes, I see you. I see you, bleeding on that hospital floor. I see the baby we lost. I realize now that you were the only one who ever truly loved me. You didn't want my money. You didn't want my status. You just wanted me. And I threw you away for a fantasy." He fell to his knees on the clean floor of my studio, his head bowing low. "Please, Amber, just give me a chance to make it up to you. I'll do anything. I'll clean your studio. I'll run your errands. Just let me be near you.
I
Can't live like this anymore. The guilt is eating me alive." I looked down at the man kneeling before me. Once, I had proposed to this man on a rainy night, believing he was my safe harbor, my second chance at happiness. Once, I had begged him not to leave me while I was losing our child. Now, seeing him broken and groveling at my feet, I felt no hatred, no anger, and certainly no desire to hurt him. I only felt a profound sense of closure. "Declan," I said quietly. He looked up, a glimmer of desperate hope in his wet eyes. "I forgive you," I said. His breath hitched, and a look of pure relief began to spread across his face. "Amber, really? You forgive me?" "Yes," I replied, my voice gentle but as cold and unyielding as winter ice.
I
"Forgive you, because you no longer matter to me. Your apologies, your guilt, your suffering, they have nothing to do with my life anymore. I forgive you the way I would forgive a bad dream after I've already woken up." The hope in his eyes shattered, leaving behind a hollow, agonizing emptiness. "I don't hate you, Declan," I continued, looking out the glass window at the bright, beautiful city outside. "But I will never let you back into my life.
You
Killed the woman who loved you, and she is never coming back." I turned to Eleanor. "Mom, please call security to escort this gentleman out. Our client will be here any minute." "Right away, dear," Eleanor said, a satisfied, peaceful smile on her face as she picked up the phone. Declan stood up slowly, his body trembling, looking like a ghost. He looked at me one last time, realizing with absolute certainty that he had truly, completely lost me. There was no negotiation, no dramatic fight, no lingering spark of emotion he could exploit. There was only a vast, empty space where our love used to be. He turned and walked out of the studio, his head hung low, disappearing into the crowded, bustling street outside, merging with the sea of strangers. A few minutes later, the door chimed again. A well-dressed couple walked in, smiling warmly as they saw me. "Hello, are you
Amber?
We've heard so many wonderful things about your work. We'd love for you to design our new home." I smiled, extending my hand to welcome them. "Yes, I'm Amber. Please come in. Let's talk about the future." As I sat down with my new clients, the warm sunlight washed over the room, illuminating the beautiful, independent life I had fought so hard to build.
The
Past was finally gone, buried deep beneath the earth, and before me lay a bright, limitless horizon.